Yeah, welcome to another episode of the Racer X Exhaust Podcast, brought to you by Yoshimura. I am Jason Wygant. Yoshimura does it all, man. You've got exhaust systems for your dirt bike, your street bike, your ATV, your mini bike. That's all available at yoshimura-rd.com. We talk a lot about exhaust systems because we are in the motorcycle racing business. However, there is a significant portion of the world that likes to pedal their two-wheeled machines, and they have pedals for them now at yoshimuracycling.com. Check out the new Chileo pedal, and you can get that, again, yoshimuracycling.com. Now available in two sizes, regular and small for smaller feet. And it is a flat pedal that is completely made in the USA, and pedaling is really key because I'm probably about to go do that with a bunch of industry people because we're out here in Utah, and that's what people do. They ride mountain bikes, or if you're Jason Thomas, you ride a road bike. And a new sponsor on board, first time. Let's hook up MX Tech Suspension, which manufactures professional aftermarket suspension for riders who want excellent comfort and control. Their quality engineering is based on a lifetime of specializing in dirt bike suspension, and they have developed the Lucky Fork, which features dual springs, dual cartridges, Huck valves, and is ultra lightweight. MX Tech utilizes the latest in technology and coatings to deliver maximum performance while remaining the lightest shock available. Head over to mx-tech.com for more information. That's mx-tech.com. Today's podcast is actually last night's podcast. Normally, post-race press conferences held at the races after the race, but in this case, we can't do that because we're not all allowed to gather in one room. So instead, we all hurried back to our hotels. The riders hurried back to either their haulers or where they're staying, and we did it via Zoom. And this is the audio of the post-race press conference hosted by Daniel Blair of NBC Sports and the Main Event Moto podcast, which you can also hear on our Racer X podcast network. And speaking of Racer X, real quick, always we encourage you to subscribe to the magazine, which can either be a traditional print magazine or you can read the entire content of the magazine on our website. Go to racerxonline.com/weege, WEEGE, and subscribe with that link because I get the credit. And then that grubby Daniel Blair guy does not for his podcast, and Mathis doesn't as well. Please help me beat them. It is a so worthwhile cause. Okay, probably not even close to a worthwhile cause considering everything else going on in the world right now. It's a near and dear one to my heart, though. How about that? So, racerxonline.com/WEEGE. Subscribe to the magazine, read it print or digital or both. Now, here is the press conference from last night's race.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This is the virtual post-race press conference from Salt Lake City, round number 11 of the Monster Energy Supercross Championship. I'm Daniel Blair, joined by our podium finishers today. We'll start with the 450 division, finishing in third, riding for Team Honda HRC, Ken Roxon, finishing second, riding for KTM Red Bull, Cooper Webb, and today's winner, Monster Energy Kawasaki's Eli Tomac. Congratulations, guys. In the 250 division, Marchbanks finished third, riding for Pro Circuit Monster Energy Kawasaki. Chase Sexton in second, riding for Geico Honda. And your winner, riding for Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha, Shane McElrath. Congratulations, guys. We'll start with the 450s. This is a question for all three of you. We come into this race knowing that things are going to be different, but now we're through it. What was the biggest challenge today with all the variables that you faced? Kenny, I'll start with you.
I think the biggest challenges was I feel like from practice on, I felt right at home. So there was nothing really weird about that. But I feel like we never raced during the day like this, obviously. So the track, I don't think I've ever ridden, maybe Vegas every now and then, but we hardly ever race conditions that are like how they were today. So I think that was probably one of the biggest differences for me personally. So, yeah.
You okay after your almost spectacular get off?
That was not good. There was a little rut on the downside of the tabletop, and I kind of like got squirrely in there, and right from there I shot off to the right, and right I was in the air, and I said, I'm done. I literally just honkered down on the bike and on the handlebars. I don't know how I rode it out, but then I literally rolled everything the last lap. I was like, all right, let's just bring this one home.
I'm glad you're all right. Cooper, second place on the day for you. The challenges, what stood out?
Oh yeah, I think like Ken said, the track conditions were mega for sure. It was, real warm today, windy. Obviously, we knew it was going to be dry, but it was a tough main event. It seemed like probably the driest one I've ever raced. So track was definitely challenging. I'd say the weirdest thing was no fans. I mean, on the gate and all day getting ready for practice, you could you could hear a pin drop. So that was a little different than what we're used to. That was for sure.
Eli, congrats for you. Biggest challenge throughout the day.
Well, I mean, our routine was different, right? Just the whole routine in the day, and then not having, the people in the stadium was a little bit weird. It's like you had to, tell yourself, this is real, it's so easy to get fired up for the main event, the night show, and then when there's no one there, it kind of feels like practice. So that's what I had to really focus on. I'm like, man, this really means something right now,
It took you a little bit to get going too. Your first few laps were a little rough, but then you found that gear. Was that kind of just adapting to the race conditions again, coming in maybe a little flat because the energy?
Maybe a little bit, and then trying to. I don't know what I was really doing. I was a little bit slower that finish line, and then Coop got the slingshot on me, and then Ken made the next pass. So right there, I don't really know what the cause was early on. It was just maybe feeling out the condition, and those guys were just a little bit better early.
250 division, Garrett Marchbanks, congrats on the third place. With the 250 guys, I'm going to ask you a little bit different question. 85 days since Daytona. You guys were just getting going. It all stopped, and now it just turns right back on. Was it everything that you expected? Was there rust today? Did you feel okay? Just kind of take us through the day and just what it felt like to be back on the track. And Garrett, I'll start with you.
Man, the track was pretty, I don't know, just being on a 250, and I don't know, the power is a little different just from riding in Florida and everything. But, yeah, it took me probably 2 sessions to get used to the track. And then by the main event, just how dry it got, I haven't ridden something like that in so long. So it took me literally 8 laps to get used to it, and I finally got a good flow until the end. But, yeah, the track conditions were pretty gnarly today.
Chase, second place on the day. Same question. Just how'd it feel to be back racing and then be back on the podium and back doing what you do, fighting for this championship?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, to think Daytona was 85 days ago. It doesn't feel like that long ago, but I mean, again, it was a long time ago. So it felt kind of like Tampa all over again. And yeah, it was nice to get back racing. Like Eli said, it was kind of weird with no fans there. It was kind of hard to get yourself fired up and getting in the mindset this is for a championship race. This is for points, and it kind of felt like a practice day. So I think getting my mind wrapped around that was the toughest thing.
Shane, congrats on the win. These guys have mentioned the crowd not being there takes that little bit of edge away. Was that weird being on the line for a main event in a championship point paying race and having such silence when normally you can kind of feel it?
Yeah, I think so. It was weird not having the fans there, and coming in, you kind of have the mindset of, it's just going to be like a practice day. But then you line up even for the practice starts, and you still have that adrenaline feeling. You still have that the kind of feeling of man, let's go, hurry up, let's go. And so it was weird. Once we were in the race, it wasn't normally you can hear the fans when something's going on, and outside of that, it's you're kind of just zoned in. You hear the bikes, you're just focused. So I would say we didn't have those big fan moments when you could really hear the crowd roar. So that was weird, but it was really once we started racing, I honestly didn't really think about it. It was just this is a race, let's go. But sitting on I think it was for the heat race, sitting there just dude, this is very, very quiet. You can hear yourself breathing. It's weird. And so it was definitely a different race. I mean, the track was really dry, and the wind was up and down all day. I felt like it was a good racetrack, all things considered, like with the weather that we had. I mean, we had a few hot day stretch, and it just happened to be right now when we have a day race. So I think it's really going to help out the next two races for the East Coast when we have the night rounds. But yeah, I mean, this is really kind of how the track's been the last two times I've raced here in 17 and 18, and it was still pretty bad. It's kind of like a practice track.
Well, congrats, guys. It feels good to see you guys back on the track. I enjoyed it, and congratulations on your podium. We'll open up now to the media. We'll kick things off with Steve Mathis. First question, Steve. Unmute.
All right, got it. Thank you.
There we go.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate this question is for Shane, I guess, and Chase. Guys, you lapped fifth place. Pierce Brown, who rode great, but you lapped him. So all race long, Chase, you were closing it. Shane, you were getting second. You were getting caught a little bit. Then Chase would get caught. What was that like, both Shane and Chase, to fight through those? Some of those, and those guys were going fast. I mean, like, you locked at the fifth. So what was that like?
Yeah, it was. Well, I didn't really know that until after the race, but we did get into lappers early, and it was weird because, like, there was one time I looked at the time, and we still had like 6 minutes left, and I'm like, dude, we have passed so many people already. And it was like one of those things, like, I was really having to make sure I was patient when I was passing the lappers because they were still battling, but I didn't know it was sixth and seventh place or whatever. So it was like, dude, a lot of the guys wouldn't really check up until it was like I was right on them. And so it was definitely weird. And to think, like, I mean, we were pushing as hard as we could, and to think that we did lap fifth was pretty wild. But it was like with the track, the dust, and like the lap drivers had really, I didn't know where I was. It was just like, let's keep going. I didn't even see the white flag. I only got the checkered, so I was like, oh well, okay. But there was a lot going on out there.
Yeah, I mean, the track in general, like, it was super dry, and then having those lap riders in there was kind of like, I don't know, it felt like chaotic out there. There was so much dust flying, and then getting behind lappers, I couldn't see anything. I was like trying to figure out which one was Shane, because like I get in a lapper and he would pass one. I thought it was Shane, but it was actually a lapper. So it was kind of just chaotic, and I was the last couple laps, I'm like, man, we got to be lapping. Like, I saw Pierce, I'm like, I think he's like somewhere around the top 5. So I think Shane and I were pushing a pretty good pace at the beginning of the race, and I don't know, I just felt like we were riding pretty well. So I think with the short track and just the conditions, I think that's why we lapped all the way up to fifth.
Jason Wygant.
Unmuted. I'll just ask Eli, qualifying. We don't have the scoring tower. I don't know if you had pit boards or if you could see. I think they were trying to do pit boards. So just give us an idea. Did you, like, in qualifying, do you even know where your lap time is? Because normally we have that big board to watch.
Yeah, we didn't have the board today, but I think we got a pit board in the first qualifying. So yeah, I could see the pit board, so it wasn't too bad. But not having like the tower was a little bit different, and it was kind of nice. At least we were able to look at the big screen, for our total time. And I looked up there once. It was like 15 minutes ago. I'm like, wow, we're gonna do a lot of laps tonight. Today.
Yeah, that's right. Eli and also Cooper, you were kind of keeping each other honest to the end. I know Kenny had that mistake there. Cooper, it seemed like you weren't giving up. So let me ask you this first. How hard was it to keep pushing to the end in these conditions? Was it like a real balance? Because it seemed like it'd be really hard to push on this track.
Yeah, like you said, it was tough to find that balance of, like I would told the team, it's like you want to go faster and you try harder, but you make mistakes because it's so dry. So it was really about kind of being patient, but trying to carry the momentum and hit your marks. And yeah, I felt like I made a charge there at the end. And I made a mistake where I missed the rhythm that, really kind of took me out of it a little bit. But overall, like you just said, it was a long main event. So I felt like once he got around me, we played kind of cat and mouse. I mean, I was still a good ways back, but, it seemed like one lap he would kind of gain, and then the next maybe I'd gain a little bit. So I knew it was going to be a long one and was just hoping to try to click off as many good laps as I could. And then, there at the end, that mistake, I think he got an even bigger gap with a few to go. And so it was, it was a hard charge, but definitely a long main event.
What were the final laps like for you there, Eli? Same situation with him, like 3 seconds back and the track going away.
It was just tough the whole time. And, the pressure was there the whole time. So it was hard, and the Adams thing was just crazy. I mean, I would watch that again, and the way his bike bounced, luckily the rear wheel was coming down, and then I, rode over the center of the bike. Like, that was just pure luck to make it through that thing.
Michael Antonovich.
All right, this question, thanks, Daniel, is for the 450 guys. Quite a few laps on a basically very simple track just to ease you guys back into things. How did it feel, even though it is a 20-minute race? How much did the track change and break down when you guys got into those later stages?
I'll just start up. Honestly, I mean, you start up and they try and fix as much as possible. And I honestly feel like we didn't even you don't have really that much time to think, right? Like the track's breaking down and we kept cutting down and the power of the bikes are down out here a little bit. So it for sure made that kind of things a little bit tougher. I mean, I don't know the rhythm where I almost crashed on. I don't know how many times I went over the table and then threed and cased that one and double singled probably 5 or 6 times. And so that side of things, I feel like, once the bikes get a little bit hot, like they actually lose a little bit more power. I mean, it's not significant, but in altitude, you notice it even more. Our bikes are so powerful on regular altitude. So it was getting so bad and so dry that, like what Cooper said, it was such a fine line of pushing and not pushing. And, you go around the start straight, that long left-hander. I mean, you could have literally sipped a coffee right there because we were going so slow around that thing. So it broke down, it got rougher, and we tried to, move out of some of the rough stuff, but then you can barely make the jump. So it was a challenge.
Cooper.
It was, like you said, it seemed like they didn't prep it, too much before the main event. Like they left quite a bit of stuff. So it was quite a bit different than I think most races that break down and you just kind of go lower and lower and lower. And with the altitude and the bikes being slow, you can't go much lower and make the jump. So it was definitely tricky. And then it felt like the rocks kind of came out as well. So it was definitely a rough main event, but more just the lines just having no traction. And, you're on that fine line of it almost blowing every time you came around it. And I think like the slickest turn was the first turn, and there at the end, we got down to the concrete, and so it's like you hit that and I hit it one lap and you're like just barely holding on. So that was the hard part.
Eli.
I'm with these guys. I mean, it just, it kind of did the typical, but it was dry. It required, some 2-wheel drift. And like that first turn was crazy. It was like you're on a flat track bike, but sometimes it was actually kind of cool.
Chris Cooksey.
So, Eli, how similar is this dirt to what you ride on in Cortez? And what does your week look like now? You got Monday, Tuesday, race on Wednesday. What are you going to do?
Our track at home, it gets dry and hard. So it's somewhat similar. This place has more rock in it. Like there was some marbles, especially in that last turn before the finish line. Like there was some serious marbly rock coming up. But yeah, it's hard and dry at home. Yeah, and then I just lost my train of thought there. What was your second question?
What are you going to do Monday and Tuesday? Like, what does it look like? Are you going riding? Are you resting? What do you do?
Yeah, probably off the motorcycle, just because we only have 2 days. So, there's really not much we can do is just recover, because these race days are big efforts, So just think about recovery.
And then Garrett Marchbanks, you put a really aggressive pass on Jeremy Martin. I don't know, was there a payback or was it just an aggressive pass?
No payback at all, honestly. Like, I don't know, I just thought the track was really tough to pass on. And, I was just trying to make a quick, aggressive pass. That was all.
Perfect, thanks.
Dan Lamb.
Yeah, Dan Lamb, Moto X Addicts. For Shane. Shane, you now have, I think, 3 wins in a row here at Salt Lake.
Time you guys have church.
Something about this place obviously fits with you. How stoked were you, first of all, to hear racing was going to be here? And then secondly, what is it about this place, I mean, other than the soil, obviously, that you thrive on?
Honestly, when we first heard that it was going to be here, it's like just cool. I mean, I'm on a Yamaha now. I feel like it's one of the best 250s, and it's the bike is really good, and I feel really good at altitude. I think it's, for me, I mean, it's cool that I've won three races here in a row, but I don't really think it's anything special. I mean, I feel good here, and I like the dirt here, and it's really similar to practice. And so for me, I felt comfortable. And even from the from the 2 sighting laps, I mean, we could see the track from the stands earlier, and you kind of have a good idea. You can see how things are built, and it looked like things were a little bit rolled, and it's to be expected here at altitude just because the bikes are slower. But then once we got out there, it's like everything's pretty forgiving for the most part. So you kind of just tell yourself, all right, this is what we're going to do, so let's do it. And I mean, I know the first rhythm, a lot of people dealt with problems making that first triple. It was almost like it was built backwards. Like the landing was pretty tall and steep. And so that on the 250s, it's like sometimes I could stand, sometimes I had to sit because I wouldn't make it at all. So really, I thought it was just a good race day, and it was good to get back to racing. And I don't really think it's anything special with Salt Lake. I feel good in the altitude, and I feel good in the championship, and I just feel like I'm good.
And for Garrett, I don't know if we lost him, but I was wondering if it's open and momentum comes in, how bummed were you that it got canceled right after you won a race? And did you feel like maybe that took a little momentum away from your win, or did you feel like you had momentum coming into this weekend?
Honestly, I was pretty bummed that we weren't able to race in Indianapolis. I feel like the momentum was on my side for sure. But, taking the 85 days off, it kind of, I don't know, it was kind of weird. But I still feel like the momentum was on my side a little bit. And to come out today and take a third, I wasn't happy with it. But, it's a good direction. So, yeah.
Kit Palmer.
Yeah, hi. This is Kit Palmer, Cycle News. I guess this is for both Eli and Cooper. Eli, you already touched upon it just a little bit regarding Adam's crash there. That was pretty darn close for both you and Cooper. Can both of you kind of describe what happened there?
I'm not exactly sure what happened to Adam, but he got bucked a little bit forward, and then he, went sideways and slammed down, and the bike popped up. That was the worst part, right? Was the wheel came up, and I was already in the air, so there's nowhere to go. And then the way it just happened to just, fall down in the right time, right place, and I rode over his bike. So that was it. Pretty sketchy.
I didn't really see anything besides the back end and someone crashing. And like you said, Eli and I were both in the air, and he kind of went left to try to miss the bike. So I went a little left, and that's where his body went. And yeah, it just kind of was unfortunate. We both didn't really have anywhere to go, and I hope he's all right. But yeah, I didn't really see exactly what happened. Just was trying to avoid the chaos.
Eli, have you by any chance heard how he's doing?
He was, walking under his own power back to the truck. Obviously sore, but I don't know exactly what he's feeling like other than, he was walking back. So that's all I got.
Well, that's good. Thanks.
Julie, Jack.
Sorry, there's so many things to take off here. I was just wondering, just wanted to talk to Garrett and Eli. We talked a little bit about the benefits of you both having a background with racing at altitude or practicing at altitude. Do you feel like that really helped in this race? And do you think that it'll keep helping as races go on, or do you think it won't as guys get their altitude and their lungs under them?
I think early on it's going to help us, just for the general feel of the bike. I mean, they're quite a bit slower up here. So, I know when I go to sea level, the bike's so really fast. And when you come up here, they definitely are slower. So, I mean, yeah, we've been able to practice, a day or two up here, but there's I would think there's some sort of advantage being a little bit used to it.
Yeah, I don't know. The bike is definitely a lot slower for me. I kind of agree with Eli. Just you're pretty pumped when you go back to sea level, but the altitude was definitely a big thing for me just because I have asthma and it's hard for me to breathe up here. That's why I tried to come down here at least 2 weeks in advance if there's a race in the higher elevation.
I also have another question for you two, or for whoever else wants to answer. But you previously were talking about just how quiet it was on the track before the races. What did you guys miss the most? Was it the sound of the crowds, or was it the hype, or the music beforehand, or was it just like the pyrotechnics, any of that kind of stuff?
I think it's a little bit of everything. We kind of call it like the gladiator effect, right? Where you have the crowd and the people. So that's what we were missing. The lights, the noise, the music, getting you fired up on that gate drop.
Joey Barnes.
Joey Barnes is Auto Week. I know you guys have kind of touched on this a little bit, but for you 450 guys, how surreal was this experience? Just getting out there, kind of seeing kind of the lay of the land, seeing banners in the stands as opposed to fans. I mean, how surreal was that? And did it feel differently in terms of maybe how did it affect your race? How did you feel like you had to manage it a little bit differently because you didn't have something there to give you maybe that extra oomph for the remainder of those 20 minutes?
It's just different. I mean, I feel like we've talked about it a lot, and while we're racing, we're under our helmet and we're in our zone. But Supercross in general is a lot more of a show. I think just with the crowd being there and all the music and all the things, the fireworks, all that kind of stuff. So now not having that, it's just simply just different. It feels like a day at the practice track.
Alex Gobert.
Eli, it seemed you were able to remain pretty composed towards the beginning of the race when Cooper and Ken made their way through. So what was the mindset at that point?
At that point, I didn't really know what was going on. I mean, I knew we had a lot of time left. I was still comfortable with that. And I wasn't pushing as hard in general, I don't think, early there. So that was it. I was just banking on the amount of laps we had, and no one was really running away too fast too early, so I wasn't totally panicking.
Jason Wygant.
Thanks. This is for Ken. I know obviously you want to win races. You're on the podium, but you lost a few points. Is there anything you're looking at now that you've seen the conditions or the schedule or anything that you're thinking maybe I can change these things to try to get the win I'm sure that you want in the next rounds?
Well, obviously not ideal, but I'm not stressing by any means. Even though we have, we're doing all these races in 3 weeks, there's still a lot of racing to go, 6 rounds. So I think the team and I, we got a good plan going because I left my bike the same, as on sea level. So we have a couple of little ideas, I think, just to give it a little bit more oomph to make it a little bit easier with some of the rhythms and stuff, especially once we're racing at night. Hopefully the traction will get a little bit better, things like that. So I'm okay with it. I'm just honestly glad to be on 2 wheels and be healthy after that little almost get off. So not ideal, but I'm also not like super bummed and getting down on myself. And we talked about it. It was really hard to make a big difference. Obviously Eli was really good for what the conditions were and passing us. And I made a mistake and he went by and I couldn't really latch on to anything. So we were kind of just everybody was riding pretty much their own race at one point. So third place is not horrible and not awesome, but we have 6 more races to go to redeem ourselves.
I'm going to ask one of the 250 guys. I'll ask Chase. The track was so dry. Did that catch you by surprise? Is there something that you can think, okay, now if I know I'm dealing with this kind of dirt, I might make some changes to your style or your bike or anything like that?
I mean, not really. I feel like I raced here in 2018, my rookie year, and honestly, the track was almost the exact same. So I was kind of expecting it, and yeah, I mean, I feel like I rode decent. I think the lappers were gnarly for both Shane and I, and every time I feel like I gained some ground, that I just lose it the next corner. So I just feel like that was on me, and I feel like I had a win in my sights, but didn't make it happen. So I think it wasn't really the track conditions or anything like that. It was just something that I need to work on myself, and I kind of knew what the track was going to be like. But hopefully these next couple of races, them turning the track over and getting some more water in them, make it a little more tacky, and hopefully the night races bring up some more moisture.
Chris Cooksey.
Chase, building off of that question, so in the first couple practice sessions, you looked like you were struggling for front end grip. Are you going to test it all this week, or are you just going to rest? What are you going to do?
It's kind of difficult. I mean, it's just weird because we race on Wednesday. I probably will take tomorrow off and then ride Tuesday just to be able to get on the bike. But the front end washing was more, I think, just them putting water on the track, and we did adjust the sag a little bit, so front end was a little lighter, which we went back. So yeah, I mean, it was just, I think, some of the track and some partly me and part of the bike. So it wasn't really anything that stood out that made me lose the front or anything like that. I actually felt pretty good in practice and felt decent all day. Felt like the bike stability was really good. So looking forward to Wednesday.
Dan Lamb.
There we go. Back to Chase. On that note, and working on stuff during the week and stuff, we've noticed you're working with a new person, someone with 50 wins in Supercross that might be able to help you find that traction. Is there anything you can talk about working with James?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been, I guess, under the radar a little bit. But yeah, it's been really good, and he's helped me a lot. And I think today I rode decent, but I didn't really, my racecraft wasn't very good. So, and I've got a few text messages already about it. So we'll go back to work, and he's been a big help and mentor so far. And it's only the beginning. So looking forward to going back and doing some more work this week. And unfortunately, yeah, he's not here, but we'll go back to work.
All right.
Last question, Steve Mathis. Unmute. There we go.
Sorry. I could ask a bunch of guys this question, but I'll ask Kenny, I guess, just because. Don't tell anybody at Feld, but I talked to some riders and teams after the race today, and everybody said the track was so challenging, whether it was the ruts or dry and slick, for all the things that you've talked about, and all of you have talked about this press conference. But Kenny, 6 more weeks on this, how's it going to hold up, and how's that going to change, if at all? Do you think it change?
Good question. In general, you would think that if we're racing on the same dirt 6 times in a row, it technically, same with Anaheim 1, Anaheim 2, Anaheim 3 that we used to have, and it would just get worse and worse and worse. I don't think it can get worse than this. So the fact that we're actually starting to race hopefully a little bit later in the day and at night, maybe keep some more moisture in it, and them turning the dirt around. I mean, they have to water it a lot. It can't get much worse. So I don't really know what to expect. Hopefully it'll just go the other way and get better, but who knows? And I think the challenging side of things were just that the conditions were so tricky. The track in general was pretty basic, and then having having the bikes being slower. So obviously it was a little bit tougher to make some of the jumps. I just think the other half of the track, for example, where I almost crashed, and everything basically after the finish line, the whoops were okay, but that whole section right there with those rollers, I was wondering what they were doing, because it's really nothing where you can make up time. You're not in the air. Like, we're riding almost in the 30. I've never ridden a Supercross track that's that short, I don't think so, or that fast, I should say. I feel like they could have maybe done a couple of things better just to not have low 40-second lap time. But hopefully they'll do some changes here for the next few rounds, and maybe it'll get a little better.
All right. Thank you guys for being here. Again, congratulations on your podium performance today, guys. And look forward to seeing you all on Wednesday.
Bam! That is our show. A half-hour press conference with those guys. Who knows? Probably be talking to quite a few of them again on Wednesday night. That's it. Thanks to our sponsors, Yoshimura. Check them out at yoshimura-rd.com. That'll get you the exhaust system information that you need for motorcycles, and yoshimuracycling.com for everything you need on the new Chileo pedal. And don't forget the RS12 exhaust system, which is all new and now shipping for the Yamaha YZ250F, also available for the Suzuki RMZ 250 and 450s. And MX Tech suspension, go to mx-tech.com for more information. They've developed the Lucky Fork, dual springs, dual cartridges, huck valves, but still ultra lightweight. MX Tech utilizing the latest in technology and coatings to deliver maximum performance while remaining the lightest shock available. So welcome on board to them. We'll keep it rolling out here in Salt Lake City. More coverage coming soon.